and welcome back to my channel. Today I have just a little bit of a different type of video for you. I was reflecting recently on how much I do just love to tell stories. So today's video is about 3 run-ins with MLM companies that I find so funny. These are fresh in my mind because I have been binge watching this playlist of MLM horror stories by Hannah Alonso. They're so satisfying and they made me think about my own MLM horror stories. So, an MLM stands for multi-level marketing. To me, it's just interchangeable with a pyramid scheme. It's a business in which there is an emphasis on recruitment and many people at the bottom of the hierarchy of the business that are making very little money or spending their own money to kind of continue to be in the organization, and very few people at the top. So, shaped like a pyramid. The first story happened when I was about 18, the first summer after high school. They drew me in with those flyers in our school about making $18 an hour. And I was making like $7.50 at the farm stand, so that sounded real good to me. So, maybe you guessed it, I joined Cutco, the one with the knives. And we had this training period. I believe it was the unpaid 2-week training period that Cutco requires. And if you've ever been part of an MLM or been interested in their tactics, you know that there is this pattern of using shady and pushy tactics. This was no exception. We met in this ramshackle office, and there's like one other kid from my high school there. And our team lead or whoever would pull us individually into his office one at a time so that we could go through calling everyone we knew in front of him. Now, I bet you're thinking, what a nightmare. And yes, it was. Just as much of one as it sounds. I think we were using phone books. I just have the most embarrassing memories of calling the parents of people that I barely knew, trying to sell them knives. I called the mother of another girl on my dance team who was so sweet until I mentioned that I was calling about Cutco, and she was understandably like, oh, no, I am all set with the knives, and hung up. But the funniest part of this experience to me was that every morning for this 2-week training period, we would walk into this crumbling office where our team lead would be hyping us up with that stereotypical MLM high energy intensity. He did it to the same song every single day. Now, I don't know if this guy chose this, if he had any say over this, but the song every single morning was Sail by Owl Nation. Can you imagine that? You're 18, you've just gotten suckered into an MLM, and there is a guy in his mid-20s headbanging to Sail every morning. Luckily, Cutco was the one and only MLM that I got suckered into. These next 2 stories are a little bit more on the consumer side. So I went to something called an Athena party in my early 20s. Athena is a personal pleasure MLM. This party was being hosted by one of my high school friends, and it was pretty fun. It was shocking, saucy. I was in awe of how confident this woman was handling dildos and vibrators. I was actually not feeling particularly called to buy a vibrator, but I did get suckered into hosting a party. So at this party, one of my friends did end up buying a toy, and from that point on, her and I were both friends with this MLM rep on Facebook. Now, my friend and I were over the dildo parties at this point, but this woman's Facebook was pretty entertaining. This woman's entire Facebook profile was dedicated to being an Athena goddess, and I'd say she had a lot of bold things posted about the ways that you could use these products to pleasure yourself. And there came a point, at least a year after I hosted the Athena party, in which this woman reached out to my friend. She messaged her saying, "How are you enjoying your product?" Winky face. Isn't that just so incredibly bold? This next one is the funniest one. It's also the most recent. It happened about a year ago. I was visiting a friend of mine, and some important background information to have is that I live in Massachusetts. Here, recreational use of cannabis is legal, and we were enjoying the benefits of that. My friend was entertaining me with stories about her past week. She had gone to what she called a meat festival with her boyfriend and gotten pretty drunk. And while they were drunk at this meat festival, they had gone around and signed up for a bunch of raffles, things like that. And while they were putting their phone numbers and emails down on lists, they signed up for this scammy MLM style roofing company. So the day before, they had had this terrible experience. This salesman was at their house for 3 hours, was super pushy, refusing to leave, calling his supervisor to kind of create this false urgency. And at the same time, my friend is telling me about how they did win one of the raffles that they entered, and they won a ton of cuts of meat, like a freezer full of meat. Cuts of meat. That was the big prize. We were out for a walk, and she kept saying that we had to get back in time for the presentation. And I did not understand. I thought she meant that they were going to give her this prize in an exciting way, that they would present it. I even called my husband. I was like, hey, you want to come over? There's going to be a presentation. I thought we were going to see a performance. I was even secretly hoping for acrobatics. So it took a while, but eventually that became apparent between the two of us because my friend did not understand why I was so damn excited. So she finally explains that it's a PowerPoint we have to sit through for her to get her meat prize. My expectations came crashing down. We get back, we order some Chinese food. We're like, all right, at least we're gonna have some Chinese food to eat as we sit through this presentation. So eventually, this guy does come knocking on the door. We invite him in, and he sees our Chinese food. He goes, oh, you guys eat dinner. I'll wait. So he insists on backing himself out of the house, shutting the front door behind him, and just pacing on her front doorstep. We were like, these are not the circumstances under which we wanted to enjoy our Chinese food. So we figured we'd wait and eat the Chinese food whenever this guy was done. My friend and her boyfriend take the opportunity to quietly argue about who needs to sit through this presentation. And it turned out the answer was both of them, of course, to make it fair. My friend's boyfriend had also had a snack, so we were all in the same boat. This guy started giving his pitch, and it was horrible. I was caught between feeling so terrible for him and this horrible urge to laugh. He was sweaty and flustered and not well suited for this job. So this guy is trying to sell my friend and her boyfriend on a $2,000 to $3,000 grocery subscription service. My friend's boyfriend was acting really engaged, so the guy started to direct his pitch towards him in particular. This concerned my friend and I. We were worried that he was getting sucked in, but it also freed us up to start eating our Chinese food. So we're eating our Chinese food and watching this guy pitch to my friend's boyfriend until finally he pulls out a form and starts talking about, locking this in. At which point my friend gracefully but forcefully said, no, thank you. We do not need this service. She hit him with, I actually like grocery shopping, and he didn't know what to do with it. So this rep actually starts getting angry. He starts making comments along the lines of, oh, if you won't even fill it out after I just spent all that time. My friend's boyfriend is getting a little more stressed at this time, so he's gotten to his feet. He's gotten to his feet and started pacing. So things had gotten a little bit more contentious, and he's on his feet pacing. I'm having a really hard time getting this out. So he's on his feet pacing, and he's kind of muttering under his breath, "Can't believe this is happening again. Second time this week." Like he was just kind of talking to himself. He's been so polite this whole time. At this point, the MLM rep was like, "What's that?" So he was just like, "Oh, it's just that this just happened." The guy was like, "What just happened?" He was just like, "This." The guy was like, "Oh." He knew. I think that's when he stopped arguing with them and got them their lunchbox size cooler with like a couple of steaks in it. I don't know, to me it also looked pretty dismal compared to what I had been imagining. And there you have it. Those are 3 of my MLM experiences. Subscribe for more stories like this because, like I said, I do love making them. Bye.